Hi, I'm Desiree Dubois, founder of An Empowered Woman and Homework. Now, for those of you who are new to Homework is where you can live where you work where you live, anywhere in the world. So what we're doing is we're acquiring luxury style properties and we're building out the bedrooms to be live work suites. We're building out the dining rooms to be conference rooms and the living rooms to be meeting rooms and having business centers, all so that women, professionals, and entrepreneurs can live there full-time, part-time, or as a drop-in. So this is a new business. But like in any business, as you plan for a new business, you should also plan for the exit. I think the exit plan is as valuable as the business plan. And today we have our expert, our community expert, Patty DeDominick, who is the founder of DeDominick and Associates. Now, she has had years of personal success with consulting others, taking companies from startup to strategic sellouts, including her own. And whether it's your mid-sized company or corporation or into a billion-dollar enterprise, doing mergers and acquisitions or enhancing your client's ROI or boosting the effectiveness of your leadership team, Patty does it all. So Patty, that's just a taste of what you do. Share more and welcome.
Thank you, Desiree. Great to see you.
Well, thank you. We have so much knowledge I want to share with everybody today.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I know you've told people. I started a company years and years ago, almost 40 years ago, staffing, human resources. We did consulting and eventually outsourcing all across America with over 600 employees. I sold that business in 2006, and since I loved making a difference for my customers and for the people who work for us, I didn't want to fully retire. So I consult, and today I'm a business coach, and I work with owners and management teams who are scaling their companies.
And that, Patty, that is so valuable. So I think no matter where you are in your journey and having a business, an entrepreneur, either by choice or by chance, there's going to be an exit plan. And so many ladies and gentlemen, of course, but so many of them are stuck with how to do that. Lots of thought should be given along the way. So as a new company, for us, what are some of the strategic things that we need to do for starters to, one, be able to scale, one, to be able to see where any red flags may be, and three, to be able to plan going forward?
To scale, to identify your limiting factors or your Achilles heel, and to make plans on a go-forward basis. That's what we all would like to do, is grow our companies, and many companies, as you know, kind of remain small. Over 85% of all businesses across America are small businesses. In fact, it's probably something like 97% that are employing less than 100 people. So it takes a real plan and a knowledge of your customer in order to scale. And I think that's important. Customer tastes, desires, and their cash flows are changing. And so it's very important to understand where the intersection of what your customer needs is and what your area of expertise is. And then you want to marry that with what they need, what they want, and then what they're willing to pay for. And only then can you have a successful business that you can scale. But it's not just that. It can't just be customers and you and me as ferocious, passionate entrepreneurs. We have to build a team. And in fact, Desiree, you mentioned build it with the end in mind. If you want to build something that you're going to have a large asset value or that you might want to sell one day, you want to make it not owner dependent. So you have to create systems, you have to automate, and make sure that you have lots of places where you can have recurring revenue streams in order to ensure a valuable business that continues to grow.
So when you say owner dependent, so it's not Patty DeDominick. It had to be a company that people would be able to acquire and be able to grow from that point on.
Right. So for example, right now, as a concert artist, Beyonce, if she's not there to give the concert, it's going to be hard to sell the tickets. Or Adele, how are they going to do it? But most of these smart, capable, highly talented businesswomen have figured out how to brand who they are and what they do. And I'll give you an example. Many of them have cosmetics lines or lines. A model, Kathy Ireland, she wasn't just a beautiful woman who made a living as a model, but she branded, she went into the business of merchandising. She started with socks. Her story is so fascinating. She had
I didn't know that.
ups and downs in her business. And today, Kathy Ireland presides over multi-billion dollars worth of merchandise that is branded and endorsed by her company, Kathy Ireland Enterprises. So it's very exciting to see what happens with people. So if something did happen to that celebrity, their fame, their branding can still move forward, but it's not dependent upon the individual.
Got it. And so when you say, as far as your customers ask, how do you find out from your customers? What are some of the strategic ways that you recommend?
If you're a large enterprise, you spend a lot of money, thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars surveying, asking your customers, doing questionnaires, getting feedback. But as a small business owner, a way to find out is to ask them. And you can ask them what they've purchased in the past, what they liked, and what they didn't like. And I'm a big fan of Net Promoter Score, which I'll just tell you a little bit about kind of what that's about. But used to be in certain industries, the automobile rental industry, that they used to check a dozen different factors. Was your car ready on time? Did it have a full tank of gas? Did you like the way they talked to you on the phone when you made your reservation? Was it easy to turn in the car? And all these things. Some other upstart car company came along and they said, all these things are good to know, but we just really want to know one thing. Did you like doing business with us, and would you refer us to a friend? That Net Promoter Score, yes or no, was enough. They didn't have to ask 36 questions. They just asked one question, and they knew whether they had a customer that they were going to have business with or likely to have business with in the future, or whether they had a problem. So I think as an entrepreneur, you need to ask your customers, and remember, your customers vote by giving you business or by giving you orders. So if all the orders have dried up, then you need to test some other things, whether that be your internet presence, your telephone demeanor. If you have a retail store, you need to keep testing and find out what it is that they will actually give you their credit card for. I was going to say, in the olden days, we used to say what they'll write checks for, but nowadays almost no one ever writes checks. So what they'll give you PayPal with, or your credit card.
They will pay for what they'll pay for. That's the biggie, because sometimes you can be priced too high or too low. And I guess, like you said, it's not only what they paid for in the past, but what they're going to pay for. That gives you a great indicator of what they're willing to pay for going forward.
Desiree, so many small businesses are accidentally nonprofits. And I hate it when I see that. If you are in social work, that's one thing, and you choose to take a vow of poverty, God bless you. But for a business owner, you can do good and do well. But you do need to structure your business, and it requires a plan. And you asked me about plans earlier, and I love quarterly plans. I'm not a big fan of huge fat business plans. I actually have a few up here on my my bookshelf, but usually what happens with big fat business plans is they sit up there on the bookshelf and then they get on them. So what I like to use with the companies that I consult with is a quarterly planning tool that's fantastic. It gives you essentially your key focus areas and your strategic action steps with due dates, and the owner of whoever owns that action step gives you that on one page. I love that kind of accountability and clarity for small business owners.
So it goes back to that less is more. They need to be in action as opposed to actually spending so much time on the admin. So what are some of the red flags that a business is not going to do well and that they have to go through a course correction? And so if someone's experiencing something besides the fact of lack of sales, maybe, or maybe your team dismantling, what other would be some key factors, key indicators?
if the business is 100% dependent upon the owner to keep everybody motivated to do things, if you're the only one who can do it right, those are warning signs for me that you're building an owner-dependent business that won't survive if something happens to you. Or, hey, what if something happens to someone you care about and you want to go be with a family member for 2 weeks who's ill? Or me, earlier this year, I had a client who died, and literally every day I just wanted to sit with her and be with her, talk about her life, appreciate who she is and who she was. Actually, I had 2 very, very dear friends die earlier this year. So you want to build a business that's not dependent upon you to keep the day-to-day activities going. Hopefully, as the owner, you are the one who has the long-term vision, but you have other people, either subcontractors, employees, key people that you can work with, or partners that can process everything that the customers need on a day-to-day basis. You need to be able to do your accounting. You need to be able to file your quarterly tax returns and your annual tax returns, and all of these things that keep the business going. Those are big red flags to me. Huge red flag for me is somebody who messes around with their payroll taxes, or who is always violating the labor laws. If you're using independent contractors only, and they should be classified as employees. All of these things to me kind of say small and jerry-rigged. So they may work temporarily, but they're not the signs of a big, successful, scalable business.
Well, yeah, I think we've often heard we're supposed to be working on our business, not in our business. And I think some people started, like many of us are guilty of starting because we're starting, we have such little capital or resources to work with. But that should definitely, I can hear what you're saying, because otherwise it's all or not. If something does happen, then everything you worked for has gone. So that should be one of the most important things. And this is important to us because now we're starting a new business. So we've all made mistakes in the past, and it's the things that we need to hear, and everybody needs to hear, so we can correct them before we go further. So one of the things that you mentioned as far as being able to sell the business, when you're selling the business, what are some of the things that you may say as far as being able to make yourself more valuable that you did prior to that time? You said before you were about to sell your business, you did some acquisitions. So what are some of the suggestions you have for businesses who are preparing to sell or preparing for that exit?
You know, I was ambitious from after about 10 years in business, and I wanted either to go public or to be part of a bigger organization and to play on a national stage. And so I explored. I 10 years before I actually sold, I was getting some offers on my business, and I had agreed to participate in what's called a roll-up, which is where you and about 5 other companies are going to merge and then become a bigger entity. You take the founders and the leaders of the other company, you buy some of them out, or maybe you create a new management structure with the owners. And unfortunately, that was in 96, 97, the same year that the financial market was in August, I think, of 97. There was a horrible stock market crash then. And so the banking underwriters backed out of our deal. And while we had watched a number of our competitors do roll-ups successfully, we missed the window by about 4 months. So I kind of licked my wounds. I got up, I dusted myself off, and learned a lot. It was expensive for us. However, we bought some education, and that was really helpful. And we made a number of new friends. It's really interesting. So when you're now talking about a deal that could go public and you could get a 10, 20, $30 million paycheck, you start to realize the things that are important to you with regard to how you want to spend your money, the kind of people that you want to be with. Anyway, long story, I want to just say that I needed to build a business that I could run and live with forever, and be willing to do that to maximize the value. So it's important to remember that any buyer is not necessarily buying the same business that you're operating. You know, I was in the human resources, staffing, search, HR consulting, and outsourcing business. But the people that bought us, they were in the money-making business. So That was my kind of awakening as a naive entrepreneur. I thought, well, they're going to be impressed with my customer list. They were. They're going to be impressed with my management team. Yes, they did want the management team to stay with the company. They didn't want me to stay and run the day-to-day because they felt that they could run our operation better and use what we had developed as a distribution arm for their business, which competed with us in the LA market. But what they were interested in were certain strategic contracts that I had. I had some government contracts, and I had a fabulous reputation in telecommunications, as well as universities, big universities and institutional hospitals. And they wanted those relationships. So I think that that's important to recognize, that any buyer who's thinking about buying you is not going to buy all the sweet little things that you've carefully cultivated over these years. They want to buy recurring revenue. They want to buy a business that's not dependent upon you, because once they buy you out, your motivation to come to work, be passionate about what you do, and work a 10-hour day, 6 days a week is probably not going to still be there. So that's important to recognize. That's why you want to empower your team. You want to create systems, and you want to automate as much as possible without being impersonal or robot-like in the care of your customers. I think those are key things to maximize your value in a deal.
So Patty, in closing, we have a few minutes, but only a few minutes left. But one of the things that you mentioned before was that you strategically purchased other companies for different reasons. And can you just share that so someone who's looking to be able to prepare to sell, they can keep that in mind?
Yes. So I started PDQ Personnel Services in '79, and then a few years later, I had an opportunity to buy another employment service, and then later I bought Ames Healthcare Staffing, and that enabled us to penetrate the medical industry and major hospitals. We had been selling against Ames, and we found that our sales reps just couldn't get couldn't get in because everybody was using Ames. So it just enabled us to take out one of our competitors. That was great. And the founder had become ill and was no longer able to run that business. So it was good for us, and the family was needing to not have to manage it anymore. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they might have been also losing money. So sometimes it's quite profitable when systems and the founder is running it, and when you're driving a really well-run company. But if the family inherits the business and doesn't stay active in it, then you can take a profitable business into a money-losing business pretty quickly. Same thing happened later with CT Engineering. In 2001, we acquired CT Engineering. That was aerospace and technology professionals. With that, we acquired certain federal contracts, and they had a secret clearance, which is very difficult to get a corporate secret clearance, almost impossible nowadays with all the security. So some of those big contracts required us to have that secret clearance, and so thank goodness, by making that acquisition with CT, we were able to get our own facility secret clearance and do more contract work. So all of those were learning experiences, and there are ways to buy as a company. I love to help people buy companies. It's one of my favorite things to do, go shopping. So I do have an offer I'd like to make, Desiree. So when you tell me it's time, I'll share that.
Okay, so this one more minute, because there's one thing that you mentioned also too that was really valuable. So sometimes you're buying the company, other companies, not only for their cash flow, but for their contacts, their contracts, their intellectual properties, sometimes even their management teams, technology, and all of that now under your roof makes your company much more valuable. I want to really clarify that so that people that are looking to expand in certain areas, you don't have to start them all yourself. You don't have to start this division. Maybe you can just acquire a division automatically. And not only do you get their clients and customer base and everything. So that's one way to making you more. And you mentioned there was like being able to increase your value 100-fold or 150-fold as opposed to having it grow organically, which can take much longer and maybe at the end of the road cost us as much in the long term. In the long term, yes?
Yes, these are called strategic acquisitions. Buyers usually will pay a little bit more for that, or a lot more, and sellers can usually get quite a bit more money when selling to a strategic buyer rather than just a financial buyer. You probably know that financial buyers in some industries get anywhere from 1 times gross revenue or 4 times earnings before income tax, called EBIT or EBITDA. But there are ways to get 5 times, 7 times, 20 times earnings with strategic buyers. And it's important to understand what they're interested in buying. Again, they're not just buying your sweet customer list, but who on your customer list, and what's the likelihood that that revenue is going to be recurring from multiple sources, not just one huge contract with IBM or Oracle, but you have many contracts. So if something happens, you get a hiccup or tough relationship or a new regulation that changes everything, that you're not going to go out of business just because some big underpinning took the wind out of your sails.
Well, thank you. This is an exciting conversation because, again, I think no matter where you are in your journey, you should be thinking of your exit plan, either by choice or by chance. That day will come. So for those who want to know more information and just pick your brain, contact Patty directly. We have a link that you can just simply fill out the form, direct you to her website, and you can have a complimentary consultation with her. Want to tell us more about that, Patty?
Oh, thank you.
That offer they should not refuse.
Did you put the link to ddominic.com?
Yes.
Or if you Google me, Patty DeDominic, you'll find our website, and you go to the contact form and you ask for a free coaching session. I'll be happy to give you a session, talk to you either about making potential acquisitions, a key strategic hire, or possibly preparing your business to one day sell. Or if you'd rather transition that business to your kids or to your employees, those are options too. And I've had a chance to witness this happen successfully in many cases. And I would love to help you strategize about that. And happy to have a short conversation with you up to 1 hour for free with no charge and no obligation.
Yay! Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's very gracious. And again, it's an offer that anyone should not refuse. So I thank you for joining us, Patty. And I want to thank our audience today so much for joining us. This has been Homework. And remember, live where you work where you live, anywhere in the world. And until we meet again, stay empowered.
Thanks, Desiree.
Thank you.